Hello, VC. Michael, Clash City Rocker, with a video this week on American Indian bands and artists. Inspired by a record, actually, a box set mentioned by Dom Seeking a Thread on one of the Surface Noise little panel discussions that they have. And they were discussing different box sets and favorite box sets. And Dom mentioned this one. And it is Native North America Volume 1, Aboriginal Folk Rock and Country 1966 to 1985. And this is a box set that I had no idea even existed, and I'll talk about it in a little bit. But it's a 3-record set, beautifully done. I guess it was nominated for a Grammy in 2014 when it came out. And what's interesting about this is it's folk and garage and I don't know, different types of rock bands of indigenous heritage, but it's from Canada mainly. I guess there was supposed to be a volume 2, which was going to be the continental United States, and it's never been released. Beautifully done by Light in the Attic. And again, most of these artists, in fact, all of these artists, I had no idea about or that they even existed. An incredible record. But again, thank you, Dom Seeking a Thread, for this recommendation. So it got me thinking about American Indian bands and artists. And I might have mentioned this before. I'm from Montana originally, born near the Crow Nation, but obviously, or maybe not obviously, I'll just state it, I'm not an American Indian. I'm not of an indigenous background. I had an interest in that, but I don't know very much at all about music created by American Indian or indigenous musicians. And I've been thinking about that a lot because in the VC, there is a lot of mention of Zamrock, and I was going to grab a Zamrock record, but I don't have one with me. But my entire musical identity has been about opening my ears and listening to music outside of the Western blues-based rock canon. And again, everything leads back to The Clash. I've shown this record before, Black Uhura, The Dub Factor. When I heard The Clash doing dub records, and maybe real dub purists are rolling over right now and screaming at me, but they were my introduction to dub music. And then I started down this path. And something about dub, just kind of rolling bass and just the whole groove, just really appealed to me. And so I started to listen to a lot of reggae music, particularly dub. But again, I'm not Jamaican. I don't know. I've never actually been to Jamaica. And then I was also introduced to this person, King Sunny Ade, and his Juju beats. This is our African beats. Juju music, again, just the syncopated guitar playing, drumming, just really hooked me. And again, I've never been to Nigeria. I've actually worked at a King Sunny show, which was kind of cool, which is a great story. But my ears have always been open to other cultures and other types of music, again, outside of the blues-based rock Western canon. But I don't know anything about American Indian music. And those of us who've grown up listening to records may have seen passing reference to American Indians, like this very famous Hank Williams song, Kalijah, which has been covered by a zillion different people. It's a humorous story of a wooden Indian who falls in love, and of course he can't consecrate that love because he's made out of wood. But, you know, there's this stereotype of American Indians with the war bonnet, etc. In fact, if you ask kids to draw a picture of American Indians, what they most often will do, they'll draw someone that looks like this with feathers and a headdress. They won't dress somebody dressed like me, but that's a story for another day. So Kalijah, or you pick up records from people you like Cher. Wonder what Cher has to say about this record, Half Breed. Their beautiful Appaloosa that she's on. And there she is in her native headdress. Now, by the way, you may or may not know this, but according to the research I've done, Cher is not American Indian in any way, shape, or form. Here's another one in my collection. The great Loretta Lynn. I love me some Loretta Lynn. And there it is. Your Squaw is on the warpath. I believe it's Your Squaw is on the warpath tonight. And I think she actually wrote this song. And it's humorous, and I get the joke, and it's kind of funny, but you know, kind of perpetuates the stereotype. There's her in control of her chief. But again, I didn't really know anything about American Indian music. I appreciate Dom mentioning that box set, but I realized that I have a few American Indian musicians in my collection, and one that I just recently picked up, and I guess he's Comanche, is Jesse Ed Davis. I was just watching parts of the concert for Bangladesh. He's there. This is a great record. I believe this is his first solo album on Atco. Clapton is on here. I think he also played with Clapton. So this was one that I had in my collection. Jesse Ed Davis. He is Comanche. Rita Coolidge. I'm looking at my notes here and I forget where she's from, but I believe she's Cherokee. There she is. It's a great record. A lot of the Delaney and Bonnie folks are on this record. Great record. Somebody had mentioned this to me the other day, and I guess I didn't really think about it, but of course it is true that I'm looking at my notes. Everything is, yeah, Mohawk. So Robbie Robertson is Mohawk. We all know him from the band. It's a great record produced by Daniel Lanois. And another artist that I knew about, and maybe one of the most famous of the American Indian artists, was Buffy Sainte-Marie and Universal Soldier, which is her classic track that probably everyone recognizes. But again, very underrepresented in terms of musical discussions are American Indian artists and musicians. So Buffy Sainte-Marie. And then Redbone. This is a compilation, came out in mid-70s. Come and Get Your Love on the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack. You probably heard it, ubiquitous. There's a great clip on YouTube of them performing this live on Midnight Special. Perhaps one of the most famous of the American Indian bands. And then the first American Indian artist to get a lot of portrayal, and I guess he's Shawnee, is Link Wray. The record here. By the way, there's not too many Link Wray albums out there, as far as I can tell. This is Link Wray Rumble on Polydor from 1974, where he re-records Rumble. I love the scene from It Might Get Loud with Jimmy Page explaining hearing this song for the first time and how that turned him on to wanting to play guitar. Another band, I guess the main person in Blackfoot was originally in the first incarnation of Lynyrd Skynyrd. A couple classic tracks on here, Train Train and Highway Song. Used to hear this over and over again when I was a kid, or in high school. Not one of my favorites, but that's a great song. Yeah, Redbone was Shoshone, by the way, and then Blackfoot was Sioux. So I don't think all the members of this band are Indigenous or American Indian, but I believe 3/4 of them are. And then there's other people that apparently have Cherokee backgrounds. Jimi Hendrix. Those are great compilations, by the way. These came out, I think, in the early 80s, when there was a huge resurgence. 78, late 70s, when there's a huge resurgence in the interest of Hendrix. There's 2 volumes of this. Another person who apparently is Cherokee is Mark Farner from Grand Funk Railroad. Who knew? I didn't know. But again, as I've been researching this video, again, on American Indian artists and musicians, I found out. And then the guitar player from the Ventures, apparently, Noki Edwards, is American Indian. Unfortunately, this is the only Ventures record I have. I love this label, the TV Records Incorporated. Those of you who remember watching late night television in the 70s when you could order these. And then, again, I didn't even know, but the lead singer from Romeo Void is Cowlitz, apparently. A Washington tribe that I don't know too much about, but great classic track. Never Say Never, Romeo Void. So Deborah Isle is American Indian, indigenous apparently. Never Say Never, Might Like You Better If We Slept Together. Classic, kind of no wave track. But again, I've been listening to to music from all over the world. My entire musical listening experience. African music, particularly got into Afrobeat and Fela and dub music with Black Uhura. But I knew very little about American Indian musicians and bands. So really thank you again, Dom, for Seeking a Thread, for turning me on to this box set. By the way, this is a beautiful box set. Comes with a gorgeous book, heavy paper, and there are recreations of the different albums of some of the artists that are in here. Again, good luck finding some of these records in your local or any record store. In fact, the one musician who begins this record is Willie Dunn, and the first track on this record, I wish I could play it for you, is Pity the Country. It's just a stunningly great record, and if I ever find out in the wild, I'll buy it. It's kind of cost prohibitive for me, but it's a great one. It goes into the history of each of the different bands. Again, completely unknown to me. My favorite of them, of these volumes, is record 2. Again, Native North America, Volume 1, Aboriginal Folk, Rock, and Country, 1966 to 1985. There was supposed to be a second edition focusing on indigenous artists from the continental United States, from Light in the Attic. I hope it happens someday. But this first side of record 2 with Eric Landry, David Campbell, another Willie Dunn song, Shingoose, and Willie Mitchell and the Desert River Band is absolutely stunning. So again, opening my eyes, moving past the stereotypes of American Indians as portrayed in this record, or this one, or this one, and an opportunity to celebrate, these tremendous American Indian artists. Looking for a record as I'm fumbling around, including Jesse Ed Davis, who I've known about for years, but I never knew he was indigenous. So thank you, Dom. Seeking a Thread. Michael, Clash City Rocker. Peace.